Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Art and Policy Project Request for Qualifications Informational Webinar. That was a lot to say. We really do need music before these things get going. But we are excited to have you here today. If you have questions, feel free to leave your questions in the chat, and you can leave questions throughout the whole presentation, and at the end we will start to answer the questions that are placed in the chat. Next slide, please. So we're going to start by introducing our team that you can see here on the screen today. So my name is Amanda Lovely. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Senior Outreach Coordinator at the Met Council. And I've been at the council for about 5 years now, and I work as the Parks and Trails Ambassador. And on top of that, I'm also a public artist here in the Twin Cities and have done work across the Twin Cities, which is partly why this project is so exciting to me. And I will pass to Stephen.
Hi all, Stephen Klimek, he, him pronouns. I've been working with Amanda on this project for about the last 6 months to kind of conceive and put this together, as well as with the rest of the team. At the council, outside of this effort, I'm a senior planner with our Livable Communities grants programs. And my background is in architecture, urban design, and community and economic development, kind of really mission-driven real estate development, creative placemaking, creative engagement work. And outside of this, I also serve on the board of directors for the Creative Enterprise Zone of St. Paul.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ellie Hohulan. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the Cultural Policy Fellow here at the Council, so primarily working on this project, as well as a little bit with our Parks Ambassador program. I've worked in the arts and at the intersection of art and government with Amanda and beyond, and I'm excited to be a part of this project and to share a little bit more with you all today. I'll pass it over to Erica.
Hi, I'm Erica Herman, she, her pronouns, and I joined the project in November and have a background in community engagement work with public television, public radio, the Minnesota Humanities Center. Just happy to be on the project.
All right, so why we're all here today for the Art and Policy Project. The project overview that you probably saw in the RFQ that we're looking for visual artists. So we're looking for up to 4 visual artists or collaborative teams that will work on highlighting one of the Met Council's policy areas, whether that be parks, transportation, water resources, housing, and land use. And these designs will be showcased throughout the Twin Cities area, including on transit and transit buses and light rail, and as well as pop-up installations across the city and across our different infrastructure. And the deadline for this is March 15th, and the compensation for this project is $10,000. And then the other set that we also have an RFQ out for, and you can apply for both, that is a question we have received, is for community engagement creatives. And this is up to 10 artists who will work, again, as a single artist or as a collaborative to interpret the Imagine 2050 planning process. And then you can choose your artistic medium. We're really open to what kind of medium it is you want to use, anything from dance, photo, mural, animation, performance, video, poetry, projection, installation, music, really just about anything. We're really excited to kind of see what kind of projects you come up with. And this project will be shared in the public throughout the summer and into the early fall. And the deadline is the same as the visual artist deadline of March 15th. And this is a $5,000 stipend and then up to $2,500 in materials. Next slide, please. So I'm sure many of you on this call don't really think of the Met Council as a leader in the arts, but we have been doing a bunch of different projects over the years, and these are some of the ones that I've helped lead. We did an art shanty project a few years ago where we collected love letters to parks and used those love letters to change our policy plan. We also, most recently in the past summer, did a project with Ramsey County Parks where they were redoing all of their new park entrance signs. And we worked with 5 different artists to design kind of the top of that sign with different displays. And so those are spread across all Ramsey County Parks. One of those artists, Marilena Miles, her sign we turned into also a bus that went across the Twin Cities. So here's just some of the work that we've been doing, and we're really excited to get to work with all of you.
So stepping back just a little, just and to introduce the Met Council, the council represents a really broad region that's made up of widely diverse peoples and communities across our 7 counties. And the council really exists to support the region's communities in doing the things that no one of our cities or counties can do on their own. And we're really hoping this art and policy project will do is help bring more people into that work and connect and contribute to the fabric and essence of what the region is. Next slide. The key areas the Metropolitan Council works in to support our region's communities is through planning, coordination, and operations, and we do that through long-range planning, environmental protection, and transportation services. So I think many of us regularly see buses and trains operated by Metro Transit, but there are other parts of the council's work that are often hard to see or hard to connect with, whether that's housing and land use policies or underground water infrastructure or large transportation projects. We're really hoping to kind of reveal a lot of that work through this effort. Next slide. So what guides all of the council's work is our regional development guide, which is created every 10 years as a kind of a comprehensive approach to growing and supporting the region. The council's current development guide is called Thrive 2040, and it's the regional policy guide every city in the region responds to when they created their 2040 comprehensive plans. I think more people are probably familiar with the comprehensive plan processes from cities, their engagement work and community organizing in like 2017, 2018. Today, the council is working on our 2050 regional development guide called Imagine 2050. And so soon cities will begin responding to the regional policies that we're drafting now and update and create their comprehensive plans for 2050. And so while this really big picture regional approach is being created now, we wanted to really directly incorporate the arts to reimagine 2050, creatively imagine 2050 together as a collective region. So the policies being created are in response to research and community engagement work that the council has done, but we know policymaking can feel really abstract and foreign to most people, and how to participate in it is even less clear. So this is where we saw the opportunity to bring in the strengths of the arts by inviting creatives to take the draft policies we have, our goals and our vision, and to imagine it through original artworks that we will then share back out with communities around the region, as Amanda described. Next slide, please. Thank you. So in the examples Amanda shared of the council's kind of previously engaged arts project, we each used a creative experience as a first step in gathering and sharing out information, approaching a big issue from a more accessible perspective, and instigating community conversations for policymaking work in a different kind of way than most folks, I think, are used to. So we started this project by asking how we might bring that kind of approach into the Imagine 2050 regional development guide. And so we see it as a catalyst for civic discourse and a key moment to make our policy work more public. We think arts and policy project will show up as several different efforts that mix and match how each of the different key policy areas that we have and all of our cross-cutting issues and regional goals intersect in different ways and make those feel more real and more accessible to more people. We think this is particularly important to keep the spirit of imagination alive as the different policy teams kind of move into the grunt work of writing policy. And we see that this all is part communication work and sharing what the regional development guide is and why it's important, what the council does. And it's also part engagement and re-engagement and having the arts as a vehicle to really translate policy drafts into visuals and experiences so that we can ask communities if we've heard them correctly, if they see themselves in these futures, and what else they might want to see. So our key policy areas are land use policy and housing policy, regional parks policy, transportation policy, and water resource policy. And each of these kind of contend with a number of cross-cutting issue areas. That's climate, equity, natural systems, public health, safety, and well-being. And each of these is really addressed in kind of the different aspects of 5 different regional goals that we have, that our region is equitable and inclusive, our communities are healthy and safe, our region is dynamic and resilient, that we lead on addressing climate change, and we protect and restore natural systems. And so we want all of these to kind of become the foundation of these visual artworks and creative experiences. Next slide.
So that kind of brings us back to our project now that you know a little bit more about the council, which we are still all figuring it out as well. So it is complex, and a few slides probably won't fully explain it, but we wanted to give you kind of that groundwork. And so from that, we again created a project called Creatively Imagine 2050, where we're trying again to truly imagine 2050. There's an opportunity to bring the arts and artists in to synthesize and amplify the regional development guides, values, goals, and policy areas. What we really want to do is to make policy playful and fun, and to break down these complex issues and produce art that is for policy using our buildings, art, parks, infrastructure, fleets, and the city as a canvas. Again, we're really excited to help people practice using their civic muscles and build those throughout this process. Next slide. All right, so the scope of the work for the two different projects. So for the visual artist, again, it's engaging with policymakers to understand the policies and the community engagement findings. I guess this sounds complex, but it's a team of liaisons within the Met Council that we're working with. So again, if you're working on water, you'll get to work with Henry. If you're working on housing, you'll get to work with Hillary. So we're people, and it will be fun, we promise, and exciting. And we're really excited to have artists come in to our process and really engage with us. From this, again, collaborating with the policymakers, you'll create a visual artwork based on one of the policy areas, whether that's parks, transportation, water resources, or housing and land use. And from that, we will work with you on coordinating the production and installation across our systems. So whether that's wrapping buses or trains or bus stops, or creating posters that will be in libraries or signs in parks, we'll work with you on that aspect of it. So that's the visual artists. And then the scope of work for the engagement creatives, again, engaging with those policymakers on the policies and community engagement findings, and then selecting, again, issue areas. It could be one, it could be two, to shape the engagement projects that you choose and the medium that you plan to work with. And then creating an engagement plan where you schedule, again, dependent on your project, maybe 4 or 6 events in the summer into the fall to reach different communities. And again, on both of these projects, you'll have the support of the 4 of us here, along with support across the Met Council in different areas that you're focusing on. If you're interested in water resources, I'm sure we could get you a tour of the wastewater treatment plant. I know it doesn't sound exciting, but it truly is, I promise. But you get to learn from, again, different people across the council working on the areas that you're interested in, and get to work with our researchers and kind of shape these projects, and we would help you spread them across the region. Next slide.
So getting
right.
into, do you want to do this one or me to do this one? Getting into a bit of the nitty gritty on the request for qualifications. So for if you're interested as a visual artist and or as an engagement artist, there's the March 15th deadline to send us your information. We're just going to talk through some details of all of that. So our kind of selection priorities have kind of 4 key areas: the artistic merit of your past work, your ability to attend project meetings and your availability there, your ability to coordinate and engage with our team, and kind of your letter of interest and your interest in the work. So in the artistic merit, for visual artists, we're looking for kind of demonstrated skill with illustration, design, or visual art, examples of powerful visual storytelling, organizing complex information in ways that are kind of clear and direct, any kind of past experience with projects to visualize complex systems. For our engagement artists, looking at any kind of examples you have of community engagement that combines and integrates art of some medium that you have experience with. For both, the kind of ability to attend our project meetings, including a selection committee meeting that will be remote in March or early April, an in-person kickoff meeting and orientation, and some monthly check-ins over the 6 months of the kind of core of this work. The ability to collaborate with our design team, our policymakers, and our community engagement folks to kind of really develop your art concepts through some final design work. Navigating the complex systems, any kind of past cross-sector or public sector experience here would be really powerful and supportive. And I think any applicants that are interested that don't have as much experience in this, I think we'd be looking for how you'd want to approach this kind of a process and working environment. And all that I think can come through in your letter of interest, describing your experience and what excites you about this project. So for visual artists, looking at, again, your approach, the policy area that you would like to focus on, and ranking each of the policy areas that you would be interested in by most interested to least interested. And again, that's land use and housing, regional parks, transportation, and water resources. And then for our engagement artists, the potential approach that you would take to engagement, you don't need to know all of it exactly right now. Um, and then the kind of specific policy issue or combination and intersection of different issues that you'd be interested in exploring through your engagement work. Next slide. A little bit more nitty-gritty on the RFQ. So for some requirements that we have, this is limited to artists or artist teams that live or currently work in Minnesota, and all members of the team would need to meet that requirement. If of applying as a team, there's really no restriction on the number of participants, but we still have that set fee for both types of artist work, with a visual artist or engagement artist, that you'd split amongst your team to your discretion. Artists applying would need to be available in the time frame that we have posted, and we'll cover timeline, but that's also listed in the RFQ. No current Met Council staff or members of their immediate families are eligible to apply, and folks that are working on this will need to be 18 or older and legally able to work in the United States. And again, as Amanda mentioned, artists are welcome to apply to both RFQ submissions, but you would need to send both submissions in to each of them with all their requirements. And I think next slide is a bit of that requirements. So how to apply, what we're looking for, what you need to send to us. A portfolio with 10 images or individual images of JPEGs or formatted as a PDF, displaying your artistic style and your past work. Submitting a brief image description list that corresponds to the work samples. We're looking for things that you've worked on as the artist or designer, or noting the role you've played in the project if it was part of a collaborative. We have had some questions, so I think if there's videos or links to work that you'd like us to look at, you can submit those. We'll probably review only up to 5 minutes of any multimedia experience. So let us know which 5 minutes to look at if you are submitting that as one of your 10 samples. A current artistic resume with contact information with email, phone, and address. List of 2 references, including relation names, emails, and phone numbers. And again, your letter of interest describing your experience and what excites you with the project, any kind of initial concept of what you would like to do for this project, and giving as much detail there as you can would be great.
All right, so selection timeline and project schedule, you can kind of see both visual artists and engagement artists are due on March 15th at 4 p.m. And then it kind of starts to differ just a little bit by a couple of weeks. So there will be final notifications and interviews the end of March, early April into mid-April for the engagement artists, and then contracting again, beginning of April into May. And we will have orientation where we're hoping it'll be fun to get to bring the cohort of artists together into the council and to meet the different policy leads. And that will be again in end of April, beginning of May. And then with initial concept check-in, kind of showing us where you're at, what you're thinking in May into June, and final plans in the beginning of June and mid-June. And then completion of project visual artists, June into July, and engagement artists, July into October. Again, these are moving numbers, as all things in government are slightly moving. But here's a general scope of how we're hoping that this project kind of lays out. And if you have any questions about this, we can put them in the chat. Next slide, please. And so the RFQs that we're talking about are part of, again, a larger project that we are working on at the council. So again, starting with that regional art exhibition. I'm not sure if any of you got to see that We Are on Dakota Land bus by Marlena Miles. It was pretty magical, and it was one bus. So imagine that by 10, kind of spread across the region. And then these mobile tools, again, bringing engagement to where people are throughout the region. We are, as a team, working on some different games to play policy. Right now, we actually have one in Ellie's pocket to go test with the Walker teens tomorrow. So we're really excited about that part of it. And then artist activities and events, again, those engagement artists spreading across the city with your magic in the region, doing different projects. And then this is all kind of concluding with these consensus conversations where we're going to have some different talks at the Walker Art Center, again, on some of those regional cross-cutting focus areas and goals. And now we will pass to Ellie to help lead our discussion.
Yeah, so we have some time now for Q&A, and thank you to folks who submitted some questions beforehand, but if you didn't get a chance to, we'll feel free to put any questions you have in the chat. If we don't get to any of the questions today, we'll be sure to update questions on the website. And this recording will also be posted on our website, so if there's any details that you want to look back on, you're welcome to do that. So yeah, feel free to put any questions you have in the chat, but maybe Amanda or Stephen, if you want to start with what is the goal of this project?
Just a softball. That's a really easy one.
We
Yeah,
have a
I
lot
think,
of them.
yeah, so many. I mean, I think the simplest, we're really excited again to raise awareness of what the Met Council does in a really creative and playful way, and to make policy playful and fun. And then I'll pass to Stephen, who probably has a much more elegant written out explanation.
I think we're all of us, our team is coming to this really knowing the power of arts to connect with people and communities and uplift voices and kind of reveal complex things that are kind of hard to put into words, which in words of the medium of policy making. So we're trying to reconcile those things. So we're just looking again to make it playful and fun, to make it more accessible. We're trying to make arts and like a stronger tool in the toolbox for the planners that we work with. We also, I think, really want to grow the arts community's capacity here in the region to engage in planning and civic issues and policy issues, because it is really an important role that they can and should be playing.
Yeah, our next question, what type of artistic work is the council looking for?
I should have read these ahead of time, so I had pre-planned answers. I think I can talk about the engagement artists. I think we are really excited for a wide array of ways of thinking about engaging people in civic issues. Also, we are really interested in how does this work not only touch the metro area. The Met Council, as Stephen talked about, is we do the three, like the inner core city of the Twin Cities, but out across the counties that surround the Twin Cities as well. So we are urban, suburban, and rural really quickly, all in the region that the Met Council covers. So we're excited to see how this work could spread in different ways, not just in the metro area, but in other areas. I'm really excited to see what mediums people bring forward as a way to engage. Stephen, do you have other feedback?
Yeah, I think especially with the engagement artists, like wildest dreams are really what we're looking for there, and I think will be great. We don't have a preference in the kind of artistic work. I think we're just looking for arts as a way to engage people on a topic and an issue. Um, Even if it's a contentious issue, almost even better sometimes. Like I think arts as a medium to break down barriers and to forge new relationships and connections is something that was really strong and important. And with the visual artists, as Amanda mentioned, like we've the Dakota Land Bus that Marlena Miles worked on is just one bus. We are hoping to wrap way more than just one bus with each of those the visual artists' work. And that's kind of where the idea of this regional exhibition came from, that like this artwork will be out in the region. So again, no preference or thoughts on the style or approach to that artistic means, but thinking of it's going to be a large canvas with it's a bus or a train. We're also thinking of poster series in libraries or city halls or at large events like the open streets or at the state fair. And using the art as a kind of a catalyst to start a conversation, to bring people in. We want people to want to know more about what regional policy is, or if they have something they think about when they are walking up and down the street, that there's essentially a land use issue, but they don't know that. that art is a way to break down that barrier and kind of be the elevator pitch access to our policymakers.
I was going to say that you just said a good thing, Stephen, that it doesn't have to be literal. Like we are the areas again that we're looking at are housing and land use, water, parks, and transit. But it's not like you need to draw a bus on the bus to talk about transit. We're really excited to see creative, interpretive ways of thinking about these systems that the Met Council helps support and run. Um, and also that this can be work you already do in your own practice. Like maybe you already have a practice working with watersheds and have been doing some work already, and then you want to bring that into this project. We are open to that too. If you already have a larger body of work in relationship to one of these focus areas and you want to extend it through this project, that's something we're excited about too.
I'll add as well, we have a few examples of works or ideas for projects that are in our RFQ for the community engagement artist, just so people can kind of get a sense for ideal scope. But if you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. And Corinne asked a great question in the chat. Would you like to speak with folks ahead of time with their ideas to see if it's a good fit? So with the kind of initial concept that you're applying for, we will help you once artists are selected. We will help kind of with refining, and things can kind of shift once you start that orientation process, once you start talking to policymakers. And so applying with the initial idea is great, and then we can kind of help massage that, and make it feel right for both parties, if that's needed. But again, feel free to reach out to us with questions as those come up. The next question that we have here is, how can I have the strongest application, or what can I do to strengthen my application? Any thoughts on that?
I do think, again, we'll be looking at work samples of past work, and I do think that that letter of interest is going to be really important, where you explain why are you excited about applying to this project and working with the Met Council, and is there a certain part of the Met Council you're interested in, like one of those systems is really interesting to you, um, and past work that maybe you've done within community or around one of these areas. Um, we will read your letters. Sometimes I think people don't, but we're excited to read why you're excited. And so I think those are kind of the two parts that we're really going to look at. Stephen, anything
I think I'll just say,
else?
like, you don't need to be like a museum exhibited artist to be eligible or competitive for this. And you also don't need to be an expert in housing policy or parks policy to make this work either. Um, I think if you're interested in art as a medium, a kind of a civic medium to have conversation and engage people, that's really key. So any kind of past experience you've done or why you're excited about that and how you would do it would be really strong. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this project is definitely rooted in dreaming big and that playful element, these things that kind of maybe seem outside the norm of government. So we just want to see those ideas and we welcome those. So very excited to read a lot of great applications. Our last question that we have here, and then there's an additional one in the chat, but please add more to the chat as they come up. How does the payment process work for awarded artists? Maybe Erica, do you want to take that one?
Sure. We will be working with you in contracting after you're selected, and there'll be likely to be two payments. One at a first concept review, and then again after completion of the project. But those details will be kind of worked out in the contracting phase.
And a sample contract will be added to the website shortly as well, before applications close. Okay. There's a question about what kind of expenses qualify as reimbursable. Does it have to be physical supplies? Or, for example, if there is hiring a naturalist to lead a nature walk or some sort of like person fee, can that come out of that reimbursable supplies or can it only be physical?
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure you can put it out of the reimbursable fees, but again, we will be in discussion with our procurement office throughout this whole process. But also what James, what you wrote as a question, we can also work with the regional parks and work on getting you a naturalist. I think that's one of the things, just to reiterate, like we are your team here to help you and we work within these systems already. And so if you wanted a naturalist as part of your project or you wanted a water research scientist as part of your project, we can engage the staff across the systems that we work with to help support the work that you're doing. So I'm pretty sure you can pay them out of that reimbursable part, almost 90% sure, but procurement always, throws us a speedball. Um, but that also there is this like in-kind capability of a lot of these projects. Like we work within all these systems and have partners within all these systems. And so I think Ellie said, like, we want your wildest ideas and we will help you shape them. So as an artist, I apply for a lot of grants and sometimes what you write in the grant and then what you actually end up doing shifts as you work throughout the project. And we're kind of hoping that would happen here too, right? Like you have a general idea, but then you get to spend time with staff of the council. You get to dive deeper into that idea and maybe it shifts a little bit, or we help you find a partner to host or do something that you're really interested in. And we're really here to help you kind of do that. What's your
Um, the next question that we have is how flexible is the timeline? Some of us are committed to other projects with deadlines in the next couple months.
So sadly, our timeline is pretty tight only because we're also aligning with public comment period, which I'm not sure if we mentioned that part yet in this project. But so anything that the council does, like this 2050 plan, has a public comment period where the public can comment. That's the title. But not many people do comment, more organizations comment, and we're kind of excited that these projects could maybe drive more people to that public comment period. And maybe we could even think about what a public comment could be. Like, could a public comment be a drawing? Could a public, like if you did engagement at a certain place, could comments be something different than words? And so we're kind of on a kind of tighter timeline for this project, also based on the adoption of the 2050 plan. So again, we can push things out a bit, but we are working in a kind of getting these projects rolling at the same time as this public comment period and the adoption of this new plan.
I'll add too that the visual artist timeline is a little bit more precise just
Yeah.
because we want those buses rolling out for the summer. So visual artists will be a little bit more strict within the next couple months, but then community engagement artists, as long as you can make that initial orientation and are in conversation with us, the actual execution of your project can happen through October, which is when the public comment period closes. So there is a little bit more time and flexibility, if the next few months are the completion of a different project for you. So maybe community engagement project is more of a route to take if you're having timeline difficulties with the what's proposed right now. Next question, how does the contract treat copyright ownership?
Totally. Yeah. So we use the Visual Artists' Rights Act and um, work to make sure that artists get to keep their ideas and own their ideas, and then we get to use images of it, but not for making money, essentially. And that was not in legalese. I am not the counselor's lawyer, but we do have do we have a sample contract? We're working on getting a sample contract up on our landing page where the RFQs are. And so if we don't have that already, then I do know that that is in the works. So you can also look at that. And if you have more questions, let us know.
Will there be an outline to follow for the letter? Could that person who asked provide a little bit more clarity on which letter they're talking about, unless someone from the team has a good answer for that?
I think they mean the
Letter of interest.
Letter of
interest.
interest. Okay, great.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
I think the RFQs, each of the RFQs will have a bit more. It has some language description for each of the how to apply, especially at the very end, with the different pieces of what to put in there. So we don't necessarily have a template, but as long as your letter covers all those topics, I don't think we need them in a specific format. But just really covering your interests, why you're excited about the project, your experience and approach, the kind of area you'd like to work in, and if there's any other details to your project, even some of the next ones, like if you have a specific regional park you're interested in, or if you're really interested in just working in suburban communities, like you can be specific or broader to give us a sense of where you are now, and we'll take it from there. And as Amanda said, things will get refined as the project develops.
Our next question, talking a little bit more about which regional parks are included in the scope of this initiative. Could engagement take place in certain regional parks? Are there limits? So our regional park system has, and I'll put a link to our regional parks map and our website in the chat. There's 64 regional parks, and this also includes our regional trails as well. So it can take place in any of them since they're all a part of this system update, our policy plan update. So I'll share that in the chat so you can see which ones are a part of it.
I will say that one only added part of that is, again, we need to be in conversation whatever we do. So there's 64 regional parks, but if there's a certain thing you want to do in a certain park or in a certain place, that there is a process that we also would need to get approval from that park agency in that park. And yeah, so there is a process for that too.
Our next question, which it's Sarah said that she found the specific dates in the application, but just for clarity's sake, so anyone else who has that question can answer that too. In the chat, I just added our landing page. Stephen put a little bit earlier as well. It has both RFQs, so you can, where it says learn more and apply, you can click that, and there's a timeline table listed in both of those, and they have the specific dates listed in there. And I'll note too that the orientation is just going to be one specific day within the weeks that are listed there. It's not availability needed the entire week. And then next question, where can I find the application? So again, that link that I just put in the chat, that is where you can find all the RFQ information for what you need to submit, and submitting is just via email. So it's sending all those files that are listed within the RFQ and that we shared in the presentation to my email, and I'll put that in the chat right now as well.
Any other questions? Thoughts, hopes, dreams. We accept all of those.
We love hopes and dreams.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming today. And I'll get to that. Oh, there's more questions. I was just going to say also, and then we'll continue answering questions. Please spread the word. We are really, word of mouth is the best way that this opportunity is getting out. And so please share with others that you know. And now we can keep answering questions.
Yeah, so the next one is, are there specs for images? And we are hoping that as long as we're recommending images are no more than 2 MBs. So try to stick with that, and we'll let you know if we're having issues accessing any of your images. Good question. Next question, how many hours per month are you expecting from the artists?
That's a great question. It isn't, again, it's a stipend. It's not an hourly contract. So we don't have a specific amount of hours we are expecting you to work, as much as just the outcome of doing the projects. So I guess it's up to you in your own practice and how you work best, but as long as you meet the scope of what it is for each of those different projects, I think that's more important than a specific amount of hours or time. I don't know if team, you have a different
Yeah, I think for the visual artists, I mean, we're looking for it might be a pretty large format type of works. It's almost like a mural, but like a digital mural. So it's again no production time in terms of like making something, but for out in the world, but a digital product that might end up going in different formats. So it might need to be formatted in several different ways, and we'll work with you on that to make sure it gets formatted for a bus wrap or for a poster or whatever it might be. And for the engagement artists, I think we have an RFQ thinking of like 4 to 6 events. I think we're hoping that you reach a broad audience and connect with us a number of people that's sizable enough to kind of make an impact and have them learn and feel connected to policy work. So however you want to approach that and make that work for your medium and the team that you're working with, is really up to you.
Great. Next question. Someone is working with an artist who has a learning disability. Do we take video instead of written responses?
Definitely.
Yeah.
If a
Yeah.
written letter or image submissions aren't the right format for your medium or for your abilities, creating a video, it can be a video letter of interest. It can be a video talk through of your work. And if you need more accommodations beyond what we have, email Ellie or anyone on the team, let us know, and we'll be happy to help.
Next question. Do artists who apply in groups get priority over artists who apply individually?
No, I don't think we have a specific dream. We just wanted to, we know that some artists work in collaborative groups, and so we wanted it to be open to that, but also many artists work individually, and I don't think we have a specific desire. We're just excited for the way you think you work best and however you want to create work. Um, but I don't think we have a priority for one or the other.
Yeah, I think if you're part of a team or applying as part of a collaborative, just what are each of your roles? Like, what are you all bringing to it? Like, you can, in your presentation, in your letter of interest, and your experience, kind of put your team's collective work together, and maybe that works in your advantage. But maybe there's an individual artist that will have that as well. So we don't have a preference, but you can be specific in your application about who your team is and why.
Our next question. Can any member of the team be under 18?
I don't think so, because I think legally you have to be 18 to be able to
I think from
work.
a contracting standpoint, yeah,
Yeah.
no one can be under 18. If you're working with youth or have a youth connection, that's totally okay. They just won't be given a payment of any kind from the council as an artist fee. But yeah, if anyone's working with youth, you can describe that, and it's up to artists and teams how you want to connect with and kind of compensate subcontractors. It couldn't be a material reimbursement kind of subcontractor role or a direct payment like an artist fee. If that makes sense.
And all that being said, not that we're not encouraging you to engage youth in this process,
Yeah.
because certainly that is a huge part of our future, which when we're looking to 2050, the young people will be the future. So certainly a good thing to be considering, just if that's something that you want to have as a part of your project. The next question, how do you decide how many artists will work on specific deliverables like the bus, for example?
Yeah, so those 4 visual artists, we plan that each will have some bus component or train component. Um, so that's for the visual artists, and so there'll only be 4 of them, and so we know that you will, if you're one of those visual artists, you will wrap or design something for a large scale piece of transit infrastructure, along with, like Steven said, we'll probably have you format that same design into other elements that could. There are large posters that happen on Metro Transit. There are posters inside the buses, but each of those artists will get to design one big infrastructure, rolling piece of infrastructure.
If anyone
Any,
has any,
uh,
last questions, feel free to put them in the chat. One additional note that I'll add before we wrap up too is that we have a link to a artist roster form, which you're welcome to add your name to if you're interested. This is through the Metro Transit website, and this is just a place that both Metro Transit and the Met Council are gathering artists names so that you can find out about more opportunities in the future. So just share that in the chat in case folks want to sign up for that. A few other next step pieces, just don't forget that all those materials are on our website in the link that Stephen and I both put in the chat. Please reach out if there are questions about anything, and be sure to submit those materials by 4 p.m. on Friday, March 15th. So 2 weeks from this Friday, 2 days from now. And again, yeah, please share the opportunity with other creatives in your community, and let us know as other questions come up. But we appreciate everyone's time today, and again, thank you for all the wonderful questions, and we hope that you all apply and are excited as we are about this.
Thank you, everyone. Apply. Woo.
Thank you all.